Today, we're diving deep into the brand new 2026 Aston Martin DB12 S. Now look, this is a supercar with a price tag sitting well over £200,000. But more importantly, it's a vehicle that proves an absolutely crucial point. Raw numbers on a piece of paper just do not tell the whole story. Aston Martin is claiming this new Halo model is sharper, more dynamic, and just significantly more engaging than your standard DB12. But as we start tearing into the engineering, you're going to see they pulled this off in a really unconventional way.
Section 1. The spec sheet illusion and why 3% literally changes everything.
So here's the core mystery of this new Halo car and why it feels so completely different on the road. The DB12 S boasts a mere 3% power bump over the standard model. I mean, let that sink in for a second. 3%. In the crazy hyper-competitive world of supercars, that sounds like basically nothing, right? To put it into perspective, a 3% increase is effectively like a 5'11" person growing to 6'1". Sure, it's a difference, and hey, every little bit helps, but is that really enough to totally redefine how a car drives?
With a crucial point here is this tiny 20 horsepower increase, bumping it from 680 up to 700 horsepower. But what's even more surprising is that it uses the exact same 800 Newton-meters of torque from its formidable 4-liter twin-turbo V8. On paper, honestly, these numbers might feel kind of underwhelming. It would have been so easy for Aston Martin to just throw the kitchen sink at this engine, right? Just chase those massive, headline-grabbing horsepower figures. But instead, they took a completely different, much smarter path to transform the experience.
Now, don't get me wrong, that isn't to say this thing is slow. Not by a long shot. The DB12 S still delivers a blistering 0 to 60 time of just 3.4 seconds, and it tops out at a staggering 202 miles per hour. But Aston Martin knew the real magic, the true differentiator for this specific S model, just wasn't going to be found in straight-line brute force alone.
Section 2. Surgical Engineering and Aero, Sharpening the Super Tourer.
Okay, so let's talk about the steering. The engineers focused incredibly hard on improving something called hysteresis. And yes, I know, that sounds exactly like some weird medical infection. But in the automotive engineering world, hysteresis is all about how faithfully a car responds to your hands, how it reacts to your turning inputs entering a corner, and then how it straightens back up upon exit. Aston Martin felt the standard DB12 was actually giving a bit too much power steering assistance when winding off the lock, so they dialed that assistance back on center, leaning heavily on the natural mechanical forces acting on the wheel and tire. The result? Drastically improved dynamics. You get this incredibly natural, predictable steering feel. The car just does exactly what you want it to, exactly when you want it to.
And they didn't stop there. They brought in a whole host of tweaks to perfectly balance out the chassis. We're talking a stiffer rear anti-roll bar working in total harmony with recalibrated Bilstein DTX dampers. This improves roll and pitch control immensely, but without ruining that plush, comfortable GT ride quality we all love. But here's where the real magic happens, the negative rear camber. If you look at this car from behind, the tops of the rear wheels lean inward much more aggressively than the bottoms. It basically makes the car squat in the bends, almost like a purpose-built drift car. It allows you to use so much more of the tire's rubber. You pair that with an updated millimeter-precise drive-by-wire throttle mapping, and man, you can dial in the exact amount of torque you need mid-corner.
But as we know, handling isn't just about suspension, right? It's about mass. And they've managed to shave off nearly 40 kilos here. They achieve this by fitting the S with massive standard-fit carbon ceramic bricks. We're talking 410 millimeters up front and 360 in the rear, which alone saves a massive 27 kilograms. And if you spec the optional titanium exhaust, you drop another 11.7 kilos. While 38.7 kilos in total might not sound like a night and day difference, when you combine that weight loss with the negative camber and those suspension tweaks, it absolutely allows you to lean harder on the tires and extract way more grip in the corners.
Plus, you've got this incredibly clever electronic safety net working behind the scenes. The DB12 S features a next-generation corner braking control system. It actually uses predictive algorithms that effectively trail brake for you. As you enter a corner, the system gently nibbles the brake on the inside rear wheel to keep a tighter line from corner entry all the way to the apex. It rotates the car so beautifully, it's honestly as if you ripped a handbrake in the middle of a bend just to get the car spun around, but without any of the messy, unpredictable consequences.
Section 3. Defining the S aesthetics. Functional aggression.
Now visually, the DB12 S is an absolute stunner, but every change is completely functionally driven. Up front, we've got this menacing new dual-element splitter. Honestly, the pieces on either side look like they were ripped straight off a Formula One car, and they act like it too. They divert air underneath to generate downforce right from the floor, all while channeling air around the wheel arches to reduce lift. And just above that, the new bonnet louvers are deeper, much more aggressive, and purposely designed to pull all that intense heat radiating off the 4-liter hot V8 straight out of the engine bay.
Moving around to the back, there is a very significant change. Remember the standard DB12? It had this motorized flip-up rear spoiler that popped out, looking remarkably like some kind of bulletproof shield from a James Bond flick? Well, Aston Martin completely ripped that out. By swapping it for a fixed version, they added a ton of aerodynamic drama and increased high-speed stability, all while saving a nice chunk of weight by ditching those heavy internal lifting motors.
And framed right below that spoiler, tucked within a broader carbon fiber rear diffuser, are the car's signature twin-stacked exhaust tailpipes. The layout is super reminiscent of the DBX 707, and honestly, to borrow a phrase from one of the reviewers, those are money. It undeniably looks like pure luxury, signaling to anyone pulling up behind you that this car is something exceptionally special.
Tying this entire aggressive stance together is the optional lower black body package. This adds these gorgeous gloss black or satin black accents to the front splitter, the veined grille, side strakes, skirts, mirror caps, and the rear diffuser. It creates this incredible visual contrast, especially when you pair it with striking deep paint options like Aston's beautiful malachite green. The whole car just looks lower, wider, and quite frankly, way meaner than ever before. Section 4. The ultimate driving experience. Luxurious refinement. So look, all of these numbers, all these suspension tweaks, all these aero parts, they are fantastic on paper. But what is it actually like to sit inside, grip the wheel, and unleash this magnificent machine on real roads? Well, when you finally decide to let the big dog eat, the DB12 S completely delivers. It features an optimized launch control system that winds up and deploys torque way more efficiently off the line. And once you're moving, that 8-speed torque converter gearbox has been recalibrated to shift roughly 50% faster than the standard car. We are talking about millimeter-precise, lightning-fast gear changes executed in just 120 milliseconds. That is literally the blink of an eye.
And the soundtrack that accompanies those shifts, completely visceral. The standard exhaust is already tuned for added depth, sure, but if you opt for that 10,000-pound titanium exhaust system we mentioned earlier, it boosts the overall volume by a full 1.5 decibels. It amplifies absolutely everything, unleashing deeper bass, richer midtones, sharper treble, and the most juicy pops and bangs whenever you lift off the throttle in 3rd and 4th gear. It sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yet, despite all of this raw pavement-tearing aggression, you step inside and it remains an incredibly comfortable Grand Tour. You can spec this cabin in absolutely stunning combinations, like Onyx Black leather detailed with gorgeous Oxford tan contrast stitching and piping. The iconic Aston Martin wings are proudly embroidered right onto the headrests. You're gripping an Alcantara flat-bottom sport steering wheel, listening to a premium Bowers Wilkins audio system, and the entire space can be bathed in natural light thanks to an optional panoramic glass roof. The car just beautifully flows with the road's imperfections rather than trying to beat them into submission. And that really brings us to the core philosophy of this vehicle. By surgically sharpening the chassis, refining the steering, shedding strategic weight, and adding functional aerodynamics, instead of just thoughtlessly chasing absurd headline-grabbing horsepower numbers, Aston Martin has built a truly unforgettable driver's car. It's a 200 grand hot rod that absolutely dances in the corners. And it leaves us with one final, fascinating question to ponder. In a world completely obsessed with spec sheet supremacy and chasing bigger and bigger numbers, does less truly equal more? I think I'll leave that one for you to decide. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.